Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and welcome to the all-new 7th generation Ford Mustang, and this one is in the Dark Horse trim. So here we go. This one has a 5-liter latest version of the Coyote V8. It makes 500 horsepower over the 480 that the standard GT would make. You've got transmission coolers, oil coolers, diff coolers, magnetic suspension, and sticky rubber. And when I say sticky rubber, I mean sticky rubber. This is on Pirelli Trofeo RS's 305 section tires up front on a 19-inch wheel, 315s in the rear. This is going to put down a lot of power, and I think that's actually the point, is these new 7th generation Mustangs are going to be less sketchy. We all know the internet reputation of a Mustang spinning and crashing into a crowd, and I think that's partially due to the fact that their controls are typically somewhat vague with loads of power going to the rear end. Now that was fixed a little bit in the past when they went from the solid rear axle to the independent rear suspension, but still, we've seen some interesting crashes in the past. But I think from what I've heard, we're not allowed to drive it right now, this is a much more driver-focused car. So let's get into it. So before we get into the interior, let's jump under the hood. We've got lots of venting in here to keep it cool, which is pretty exciting. And on hood struts, very premium, there is our monster 5-liter Coyote with the 2 throttle bodies and intakes. That looks fantastic. This is going to be something you're going to be really proud to open up at a car show. You've got this strut bar that indicates you've got the Dark Horse there, which is pretty cool for rigidity, and I think this is going to be a pretty good time. It's actually set reasonably far back in the engine bay, so that's good news for weight and balance, because you want your Mustang to be able to perform on a racetrack, and that is actually one of the things that Ford is really into right now with this car. It's definitely aimed at the performance driver. Now, around back, check out this spoiler. This is really cool. This honestly looks like the type of spoiler that you would put aftermarket on your Mustang. So I'm definitely digging that. And back here, check out these monster exhaust tips. We're gonna start it in a second. Inside, we've got these beautiful Recaro seats with the blue embroidery on the seat rest. And then let's take a seat here. Oh, these are quite comfortable. And now you're starting to see our full new digital display that is incredibly driver oriented. One other thing you'll notice is that you've got this flat bottom steering wheel that's exclusive to the Dark Horse, but look down here. We have a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, if they've told me that I can tell you how that shifter feels, it is insane. It's a perfect short shift with that nice little snick. And the centering spring on the neutral is perfect. This is exactly what you want. It's not too stiff, it's not too soft. You feel very much in control. The gates are super easy to find. I cannot wait to thrash one of these. But a keen eye will notice we get a handbrake in a modern car. This is very exciting. Now, it's still an electronic handbrake. You're not hearing the click on this, because what it's doing is when you do this, you're engaging the electronic brake. But it serves another purpose, because this has a drift mode, and that drift mode is controlled. You can lock up the rears with that. This is actually incredibly convenient and cool for those of you who want to do a little more extracurricular activities in your motorsports events. So let's get this thing started up. Down here, start, stop. Absolute monster. Now, our displays are variable. We can put up the Fox body style gauges, which was definitely a cool addition to this car, because you can get some heritage things going on the dashboard. And I think if you're gonna have an LCD dashboard, you really do need to make the most of it in that regard. You've gotta do something special. It sounds insane. Mustangs always do. Let's get a taste of what that's like from behind. No one will question if you're home. This is fantastic. Let's get a couple little revs in. fantastic. All right, so down here we've got some buttons. We've got our auto start stop, our Mustang button, which will give us information for our track apps, our auxiliary gauges, all kinds of fun things. Our exhaust mode, get that in race mode. Yes. So you have all kinds of cool stuff happening here that you can adjust very easily on the fly right there. So let's take a look at our auxiliary gauges. Yes, so we'll get our oil pressure and voltage. That's always good stuff to have on a racetrack, including, of course, a G meter, so you can try to outmaneuver your friends on the racetrack. I think this is going to be a really incredible performer. I'm very excited to drive this new 7th generation Mustang because I do think that it's going to become more of a driver's car than it ever has been. So unfortunately, like I said, we can't drive it right now, but let's take a look inside just at some creature comforts. We've got a little bit of storage down here. I guess a little slot for pens, okay? Glove box, pretty normal stuff. Our dashboard has this lovely trim, and I think they did a good job integrating this screen because sometimes they can look really tacked on, but when you're in the car, it really seems to make sense. Let's take a quick peek in the back. Of course, you've got a couple seats back here, probably not very comfortable, and I'm not going to be attempting to get in. Back here, pretty cavernous, reasonable space. You've got what appears to be a pretty darn big subwoofer and a tire inflation kit. No spare, but it looks like you could probably fit some sort of donut in there if you finagled it in the aftermarket. So I think that's going to do it for our first look at the Dark Horse. I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be a really interesting addition to the motorsports world, and it's really cool to see a monster V8 hitting the track in 2024 because that's not always a given nowadays. Check out the lighting. This is great. So thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I can't wait to bring you some drive content on this when it's allowed and we're allowed to get behind the wheel and really thrash them. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.